I have a dream.
Now we need a sense of global responsibility. Think 6 billion humanity equal.
Imagine there's no heaven.
It is time that we all perceive gender on a spectrum instead of two sets of opposing ideals.
No hell below us.
In order to talk freely of those things, you have to release yourself of those pains.
Imagine all the people.
If you hit a Talib with your shoe, then there would be no difference between you and that Talib. You must not treat others that much with cruelty and that much harshly. You must fight others, but through peace and through dialogue and through education.
It isn't hard to do.
You see, love liberates. It doesn't bind. Love says, I love you. I love you if you're in China. I love you if you're across town. I love you if you're in Harlem. I love you.
Imagine all the people.
We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence.
Sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great. You can be that great generation.
You know what's right. Just do right. You don't really have to ask anybody. The truth is, right may not be expedient. It may not be profitable, but it will satisfy your soul.
And the world will be at war.
Of course, the task will not be easy, but not to do this would be a crime against humanity.
I said that why shall I wait for someone else? Why shall I be looking to the government, to the army, that they would help us? Why don't I raise my voice? Why don't we speak up for our rights?
All that is needed for the forces of evil to triumph is for good men and women to do nothing.
Confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
I entrust it to you. I'll be watching with anticipation.
You will join us.
You're listening to The Forum on CHRW, and my name's David, and this is going to be a really interesting one today because I'm not in charge, and I can't tell you how much I don't like that. We're joined today, we're going to be talking about the USC presidential election, the USC election that's coming up, and we have the presidential candidates. But because I've picked a side, I cannot be a part of the conversation. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's okay. So I've asked Ryan, you've heard him on the show a couple of times, to come in and kind of step into my shoes. So I'm actually going to hand the mic over to Ryan right now, and he'll do the rest of the introduction. This is weird. I'm not going to lie. And one of the things I want to mention today is the fact that it is just David and Tobi on it. I did extend the opportunity to Anushe, and she was unfortunately unable to attend. We will be giving the opportunity to have the 2 minutes times two to talk about the issues that were brought up today, but she didn't get to engage in the conversation. So I just want to let everybody know that the offer was extended to her, but she was unable to attend.
Hi there, this is Ryan, and we're joined today with Tobi and David, UFC presidential candidates, and we're going to be talking about some issues. The first thing, it's somewhat of a pressing issue, is the topic of mental health. So this is something that is it's been an increasing issue around campus recently, over the past few years, and even more so now. So much that last year, the USC engaged in CMHC at election time. There are also more vulnerable groups such as softs and mentors. What are your thoughts on this?
So when I look at the mental health resources that we currently have on campus, I think Western is doing a great job in making sure that there's a lot there for students. But the issue that continues to be brought up is the fact that it's confusing. It's a confusing climate to navigate. It's confusing to get around. It's confusing to figure out where you're supposed to go and where you're not supposed to be. And that leads to a lot of byproducts. That leads to people going to the wrong places and telling their story once just to be turned away and sent to another place. It leads to some places being completely overutilized and some completely underutilized. So when Landon and I were discussing mental health, the one thing that we realized was the Wellness Education Center is built to be a triage for mental health here at Western, but we don't think it's being used that way very effectively. Every single day, they have 2 students there completely trained in crisis counseling and trained to know every single support service that exists on campus as well. They have a dietitian down there. They have a counselor down there. And the way that we see it is, instead of promoting every single mental health resource and saying pick whichever one you go to, we just need to make sure that they know one place. We need to make sure that when you're in a moment of crisis, when your friend's in a moment of crisis, you know where you can send them and you know where you can go to get help. And furthermore, we also need to start supporting the people that we put in as support systems a little better. So I'm talking about SOFs, as you mentioned. I'm talking about residence advisors. These are all people that we've put in positions of transition for our first year students. And I think it's important that since we put them in these positions, we make sure that they're properly supported.
Yeah, like when I'm talking to students, we always hear how big of an effect mental health has on their lives, right? And either it can be personally or it can be through someone that they actually just know, right? So like we see that there is this struggle with students, you know, not knowing really where to go. You know what I mean? Yes, some of these services are offered, but you know, they don't know where to go. And sometimes when they even get there, they're turned away. And that's a really, really big problem for us, because we really want to make sure that when a student is taking that initiative or is going and trying to help themselves, we want to make sure that Western's going to be able to support that and support that student. So what me and Harry were discussing, and you know, we really thought, okay, you know what? The provincial government is in a ton of debt right now. We're going to get no money for funding, right?
Absolutely.
Like we're going to get nothing now. You know, we need to bring the power back to the students, put it in their hands. If the students think this is a big issue, which with our research we feel like it is a big issue and we know it is a big issue, we need to make sure we're empowering the students to make that big impact that they want to. And that's why we're going for a mental health support referendum. So giving the students the choice to, you know, give a little bit more money to the mental health support services, the core services here. So when students come and they need help, they're not being told, sorry, we're full, you need to come back in a couple months, or you need to come back in a month or so. We don't want that. So with this additional $500,000, we want to bring some more people in to ensure that students really are getting the help that they need. And you know what, Toby, honestly, like we agree on the thing, like where do students go? Like, you know what I mean? It is confusing. And that's why like we're proposing we consolidate the Student Development Center and as well as the Student Health Services. So we take those 2 places and we mesh them together. So not only are we hopefully going to streamline where people go, they're going to know where they're actually going to be able to go, but it's also destigmatizes mental health, right? Because we're not sending students to one organization where, you know, if you walk into psychological services, you know that, you know, there is a mental health issue there with that student. So we want to make sure that we're making it a more welcoming place to come and a less confusing place as well. A place where you come in and you can get directed to where you need to go and not being ping-ponged all over the place, right? Because that just adds another layer of stress for students. You know, and I don't know if you want to, because it's a conversation, right? So I don't want to talk too long, obviously.
No,
but like,
absolutely.
you know, we agree on this. We agree that mental health is a big issue.
Absolutely.
Yes, we want to deal with it a bit differently in terms of how we think we can add value for students, but you know, we really care, right? Like, I mean, what have you been through in terms of like? I know you've done a lot too. Yeah. So
no, yeah. When I was in second year, I was on a SOF team.
Yeah.
And 2 members of our SOF team actually committed suicide over the course of that year, and it was a really tough year. And I'll be honest, like it was the 90-man social science team, and we all went through a ton, and we were each other's support system. And when the first student actually committed suicide, I'm the type of person that, yes, I'll take some time to grieve, I'll take some time to mourn, because I think that's important. But I don't know if you guys remember Craig Sandre, but he was absolutely magnetic on this campus. It was ridiculous. And the day after, I would just remember the entire campus being so shook by it. I remember the Spoke even closed for a day because he worked there, and he was just that guy that wore jean shorts everywhere.
I never knew Craig personally, but you're right. I knew of him. Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly.
You know,
He was
and he
big.
worked at the Spoke too, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, no, it was. We always saw him there, always a friendly face. And
Yeah.
you know what? When he took his own life, the whole campus felt it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it was just like whoa, it was a wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No problem. So for me personally, I was like, I need to do something about it, and that's
Yeah.
why I started iCheck-In. It was a social media initiative trying to get increase group accountability, make sure we're actually talking about this. I tried to turn the conversation to something negative to really positive, but to loop this back, I just want to talk about the referendum for a little bit. What is the plan with $500,000? Like, the number just sounds so arbitrary. So I was just wondering if you could.
Yeah, no,
shed some light.
absolutely. No, for sure. Like, we want to make sure that we're educating the students on really what value it's going to add. So the reason we chose the $500,000 amount is because we actually looked into what the hiring would be like, right? These are full salaries we have to pay. So we need to make sure that with this money, we can get the right people for these core services. And you know what? Sadly, it is expensive to hire these people, but we really think that, you know, with that money, with that little bit extra push, we're really going to make that big impact for students, right? And also, you know, doing the little things as well, not just these big things, but little things like transferable case files. You know, students are going all these different mental health resources and they're having to open up and tell their story again and again and again. And for some students, that's really triggering.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's something that they don't want to have to go through. They don't want to have to deal with. So we want to make sure that we're giving them the option at whether or not they want to be sharing that when they're meeting new counselors or new, you know, help at all, or if they just want to make sure that it's inputted into the computer. So when they get there, it's not, they don't have to go through that experience again, relive that trauma, but just really focus on getting better. And that's why we're really making sure that, you know, we are doing these big things because we see we need it. You know, we talk to students, we know it is an issue. There's no denying that. And we need to take bigger action on that. And that's why we think by funding more bigger core services and just making sure students don't get turned away, it's really, really a really big deal. And another thing that Harry, like the vice president's running with me, he's actually working on the mental health strategic plan. You know what I mean? And he is really immersed in that. And he's seen, you know, these things aren't right and this isn't right, and he's advocating on those issues as well because he's a big member, especially on Senate. He hears a bunch of different voices from students, so it's really important that he has that input in, and he's seen really the direction the university is going in and the direction that we should go in as the USC to add the most value.
Okay, so concerning the issue of the stigma of mental health, right? How do you feel this factors in on campus? Do you think that's something that really needs to be tackled and addressed, or you know, is this really an issue?
Stigma in general is a huge issue. Yeah. I'm part of Ally Western here on campus, and it is just, we deal with stigma all the time. We deal with this, you know, stereotypes. We deal with all these different negative things, racism, sexism on this campus. And with Ally, our mission is to really build a more inclusive community and a more inclusive culture. So, you know, when I go around and I do the Ally trainings, I'm hearing from students what's going on with them, why they don't feel included on this campus, and that's something we need to break down. And mental health is a huge issue that we need to start opening up about a lot more. You know what I mean? We are doing a good job though, I think. Like when we were doing our consultations for our platform, people were saying Western does a great job at making sure that we're open about talking about it, right? But we need to make sure that they get the help too. But it's still that stigma, right? There still needs to be, we still need to be working and breaking that to make sure that people are comfortable to open up. So we don't have students, you know, taking their own lives. You know what I mean? We make sure that people are aware that there is help.
I couldn't agree more, honestly. The stigma is a huge part of the problem. But I think it's getting better. As you said, like Western is giving us a lot of spaces and environment where we can continue to have the conversation. It's something that's definitely decreased. You've seen a lot of big initiatives, like Bell Let's Talk is just one that's coming up next week that I'm always really excited for because it's a fun time of the year to actually make sure we're talking about this and making sure that we're reminding people. Because the crappy part of it is it's not visible. That's the hardest part of mental health. You can't see it, you can't touch it.
Right?
But it's
like
there.
when we look at intersectionality, right?
Exactly,
we see that all these identities, some of them we can see visually, and then some of them we can't. We kind of ignore those. We ignore those visual identities, and we have to stop doing that, right?
So we got to start making sure we're getting to know the person for all of the person and not just some of the person, right?
It's like an onion, like Donkey says. Oh, no,
There's
Shrek
layers,
says.
there's
There's
layers.
layers, you know what I mean?
So you mean like a cake?
Cake's better, actually. I like that. I like that more. I can go for some cake at 10:17 a.m. right now.
No, but yeah, I can agree more. At the end of the day, the only way that we beat the stigma is by continuing the conversation and continuing to talk about it.
Absolutely.
And making sure that we're giving people the environment to talk about it in a constructive way. And that's how we're really going to start to make sure that we're taking care of our friends, we're taking care of our allies, and all that sort of thing.
Perfect. Okay. So, that was well covered. Moving on to another topic here, dealing with student engagement in the USC. Now, last year there was a 22% voter turnout, which
low,
pretty low,
Yeah,
especially in comparison to other things, right? So, there's issues of like ease of access, perhaps, right? Or and also like, why don't students care? Like, what do you guys think about this?
It's interesting because I'm not gonna lie, I used to be one of those students. I was just like, I don't know what the USC does.
Right? I know.
Like, I have no idea.
It's like this black box.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's just like chilling over there, and you're just like, I'm sure they do stuff, but I'm not really sure what it is. But I still voted at the end of the day. That's just how I felt it was my duty. I felt it was my job to read up on these candidates, especially since I'm paying their salaries for the next school year.
Which some students don't even know.
Which some students don't know.
They're paying to the USC. Come on,
$800 of your tuition, and like you're still not voting. But yeah, I still felt that it was important to make sure that I was voting and making sure that I was educated. But the issue that I found, and the issue that forced me never to really get that engaged, is I had never been asked. And I know that there are faculty counselors and VPs of different things on their faculties, and there's a whole USC that are working to make the best decision for students. But students still need to feel like they're at the table. Students still need to feel like their voices are being represented. And I think for a very long time, it hasn't been good enough. It really hasn't.
No. Because if we did feel like that, we would be empowered and we would be actually getting involved and wanting to make a difference, right?
That's it. And I think by changing the culture, we're going to start empowering more people. More people are going to start to get involved, and more people are going to join the conversation. And that's why I'm really excited about something like the Student Organization Union, which is one of our flagship platform points, because when we were approached with the idea, it was the definition of what we wanted our platform to stand on. The whole "Your School, Your Say" is our slogan. And the Student Organization Union is a group of students led by Rabi Khan and Hassam Ansari, and they're from the Hillel group on campus and Muslim Students Association. And they've decided to start this organization because they feel like clubs have just not been at the table for a very long time.
When we talk about club space, right? When we talk about these
clubs,
things, they're not even being consulted, right?
Not even a little bit.
Out of the conversation completely. It's, hey, you're getting moved downstairs? Have fun. And they're going, what? Excuse me? This is not right. Because when we did our consultations, we got so many responses from clubs saying the space, we weren't consulted, this, that, you know what I mean? So that's why on our platform, like, which we reflect here, right? We have some similar values,
absolutely.
But we want to focus, we want to offer a whole section on clubs. Because it's not just these unions we have to be supporting that are getting student voices. We need to do an entire revamp of the club system. We need to make sure that clubs feel empowered, because right now this is how I see it. Students are walking into the UCC, okay, where we have our booths, and they think Eddie and Jamie are the bosses upstairs. Now that's not right. Students need to come in to the UCC in the morning and go, I'm the boss. I'm the boss, and Eddie and Jamie are working for me. They're my employees. You know what I mean? And that's the culture I think that we need to start establishing at this school, and it's not there.
And I think it falls into the hands of the USC executive. It does under your purview to make sure that people know who you are. One of mine and Landon's favorite question to ask, and we always talk about it, is, have you met Eddie or Jamie? And there's people that have met them, obviously, the president and vice president. But then it moves on to, have you had a conversation with Eddie or Jamie or any of the executive? And way too often the answer is no. And that is an example of the culture that we're really trying to change here. And I think it's apparent. It resonates through all three platforms.
Well, look at the
we all
voter turnout,
understand.
right? I mean,
exactly.
that's where the conversation started. So we know that's like nothing's happening really, because it's not 100% or not even close to even 50 would be nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing that excites me is I really think it's going to be better this year. I honestly think a lot more students are getting involved and a lot more students are reading the platforms. The number of students that came up to me and like, yo, I watched the debate live on Facebook. It was crazy. And I'm like,
and it's
wow.
good that the Gazette is doing that too,
Absolutely.
right? Because that's a great way to engage the students as well.
You take it right to their computers, the place that we sit all day and watch Netflix and procrastinate and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so another point that we're also really excited about is open community office hours, making sure that we're not only having office hours on the third floor of the UCC where no one even knows where the office is, but we are downstairs where students actually are. We are having these conversations. And I feel like then that question of, have you ever met Tobi or Landon one day, will have a very different answer, because they're going to be like, yeah, I saw them last Tuesday sitting in the UCC. Oh, and 2 weeks ago they were actually in that side too, and I had a quick conversation with them there. And when they can start to feel like they can ask us questions, and when I say something that makes them happy,
and they can come up to you, you know what I
exactly.
mean? Like,
it's all about being approachable, and I'm not saying that Eddie and Jamie are, because Eddie's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Absolutely, no, you're right.
But it takes a tangible effort, because the disenfranchised students aren't going to be the ones to reach out to the USC. It's going to have to be the USC that reaches out to them.
And you know what really frustrates me too is that we have all these student positions that go unfulfilled. You know what I mean? And we have some of admin who are not even taking the interest in filling them. You know what I mean? Not even making sure that there's some sort of deal between the USC and these organizations like the university to make sure that students are on these tables to get their voices heard. You know what I mean? And I think if we start obviously offering more opportunities to students too, to get involved and show that their voice can make a difference, we're going to see them take those opportunities, right? So we need to make sure that we're really working towards informing students about all the opportunities that are available, and even those who aren't engaged. And maybe some students don't want to be engaged. You know, maybe some students come to the university and they want to focus on their academics, right? They want to focus on getting, the scholarship or and that's fine, and we're going to respect that. But we really want to make sure, like you said, Tobi, we're going down and talking to people. You know what I mean? We're going down to different groups, we're speaking to different people, and we're actually hearing them out though and offering them a result. We're not just going to hear problems then go, okay, awesome, and I'm sure you're not going to do this either, obviously, but we want to offer solutions, right? And the reason I truthfully believe me and Harry are going to be able to provide those solutions is because we know how this system works, and we're not happy with it, but we know how it works. And the only way to change the USC is to change the USC, you know what I mean? To actually be putting through policy, to be actually putting through these big changes to ensure that, the club system, we were just talking, they don't get screwed over again. We want to make sure we're putting a policy in place that ensures if there is ever a discussion about club space, the clubs are actually consulted. And if someone were to break that policy, there would be repercussions, right? It's all about holding people accountable, right? So the students actually think the USC is doing good for them.
But I think it's all about being the change that you want to see. I think that's a huge reason why I ran, because I wanted to see a change and I wanted to be the one to make it happen. But what have you done to fix that problem that you continue to talk about? Because I'm not trying to get too pointed here. It was naturally gonna get to this kind of level, but at the end of the day, as you said, you guys know the system. You guys have been in the system. And
we've actually been doing a lot of changes actually recently. For example, there are positions on the executive that actually it's big positions too, and these positions were just getting acclaimed by Eddie, and there was no process, there was no application. It was just, hey, you're gonna get the job. And me and Harry saw that and we said, that's not right. How is that creating equal opportunity? So what we did, we actually came together, drafted a policy, and now actually, if you look at that policy, it ensures that these positions actually have an application process and an interview process to ensure that there's equal opportunity for all students, right? Because we're seeing this unfairness, and we see it when we're at council meetings, and we're actually acting on it. We're doing some really, really great things. So, no, we are really making change, and we feel like when we, hopefully if we get the opportunity to get in the positions, we're going to be able to make more changes at a lot faster rate, so students are going to really see what the USC can do for them.
I'm excited for what's going to happen next year, because I think that student engagement is an issue that no one can really argue about. At the end of the day, it's there. No, it's something that's very clearly exists, and I think we all have our different ideas as to how we want to get past it. But
we got to do something about it too. We can't only just listen. We got to listen and actually do something, and that's where like we feel we're going to do something. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we know how to work it too.
And that 76% has been talked about for a long time, and they're starting to get a little loud. They're starting to get a little restless.
Whoop,
and
whoop, whoop.
It's exciting.
That's good though.
It's going to be a good time.
We're so excited, and we can't wait. Thank you so much for interviewing us today.
So my platform is based off our slogan, "Your school, your say," and I think we've really taken that to heart at the end of the day, because we are students that have been in the positions where we feel like our say has not been heard. We feel like our voice hasn't been heard. And the more we learn about the USC, I'm referring to Landon and I, by the way, but the more we've looked into it, the more we've learned. And we've really spent a lot of time making sure that we've studied up and made sure that we're prepared for what we're trying to do here. The more we've looked into it, the more we've learned that the USC can do more for students. They can empower students a little bit better, and that's not just talking about that 76% that doesn't vote. That's also talking about the students in their positions on the USC Council that still feel like they aren't being given the autonomy, they aren't being given the power, they aren't being given the processes to make sure that they're doing their job to the best of their abilities. And that's something that we really need to start pushing for, making sure we're empowering people all over this campus. And I stepped into this race originally because, as I said a little earlier, I felt like I had never been consulted, and it felt like I'd never been asked. I felt like I never filled out a consultation that I saw tangible change come from. But I'm stepping into this race because I'm hoping to inspire people. I'm hoping that people see that anyone can jump in and make a difference. Anyone can throw their hat in the race. And honestly, it was a little upsetting this election period because it's been way less competitive than I hoped it would be. There's been way too much, not between us obviously, but in a lot of the other positions they've been unopposed, they've been acclaimed, and I think that is a byproduct of the engagement that we really need to fix. It's a byproduct of the fact that students feel like they can't get involved. It's a byproduct of the fact that students can't even find these opportunities online. So I'm really excited to continue through this campaign period and see what we can do for students.
So the USC right now is, not doing its job for students. I think we can all the slates can kind of agree on that. They're not doing what they should be doing. It's really time that we take the power of the USC and we put it into the students' hands. So we see all this talk all the time, talk, and nothing ever happens. It's time that we actually hear that voice and do something about it. And that's exactly what we're doing during this campaign. Before we even wrote our platform, we consulted students. We wanted to really make sure that what we were putting on our platform supported what they wanted. And we know it does, because we got the consultations, we sent it out to so many different student groups, and we see, okay, this is what they want, let's do something about it. So you know what? Me and Harry, we're all about doing things differently. We're all about shaking things up and making sure that power is back in your hands. You know what? Let's look at the Purple Store. The Purple Store adds very little value for students, is losing students money. You know what? It needs to go. It's a duplication of service. So you know what the students really want? You know what they told us? They said, you know what, David and Harry, we want a healthy food option, and we want these long, ridiculous lines in the UCC to go down. And we said, you know what, we're going to do something about that. So we started contacting people, and now we're actually in talks to get a freshie right at the UCC. We are working, we are hearing you, and we are offering tangible solutions. We are not just talk. We're going to offer mental health support. We're going to make sure that you, the students, have the power to go and say, you know what, let's support our mental health resources more. $500,000 more for you, so you are supported. We are so excited for the rest of the campaign period. We're all about doing things differently, and we understand that it's about time, it's about you. Listen, you are the boss. The students are the ones who are in the high chair, not the president and vice president of the USC. The students are. And it's really time that you claim that power, start getting your voice heard, and seeing the changes you want to see. On January 30th and 31st, please vote Team Debrina.